internet, but you've never been officially, publicly identified. You want to tell us who you are?
My name is Byrd. I'm a lieutenant for the United States Capitol Police.
For months, he has lived in hiding, he says, over this moment. His decision to use deadly force against a rioter as she climbed through a barricaded door that leads to the House chamber. In the months since, he's been the target of threats. Can you give us the nature of some of those threats?
They talked about, killing me, cutting off my head, very vicious and cruel things.
Racist things?
There were some racist attacks as well. That's all disheartening because I know I was doing my job.
Given the nature of the threats that you described, do you have any concern about showing your face and identifying yourself?
Of course I do. That is a very vital point, and it's something that is frightening. I believe I showed the utmost courage on January 6th, and it's time for me to do that now.
Responsible that day for securing the House chambers, Byrd couldn't see what Americans were witnessing on their TVs, but he could hear it in the pleas from other officers. Were you afraid that day?
I was very afraid.
What are you hearing on your radio?
I'm hearing about the breaches of different barricaded areas, officers being overrun, officers being down.
Did you ever hear a call or a report of shots fired during any of this?
As a matter of fact, I did. There was reports of shots fired through the house main door onto the floor of the chamber.
Later, those reports would prove to be false. This video captures Byrd instructing members of Congress to don gas masks. He says officers barricaded the door when he considered the last line of defense.
I had been yelling and screaming as loud as I was, please stop, get back, stop. We had our weapons drawn.
Byrd, only his hand and gun visible, targeted a figure trying to climb through a window. He fired a single, fatal shot, hitting Ashli Babbit. She was 35 years old, an Air Force veteran, Trump supporter, and QAnon follower. We see your arm out there for a considerable amount of time. Were you wavering?
I was taking a tactical stance. You're ultimately hoping that your commands will be complied with, and unfortunately they were not.
When you fired, what could you see? Where were you aiming?
You're taught to aim for center mass. The subject was sideways, and I could not see a full motion of her hands or anything. So I guess her movement, caused the discharge to fall where it did.
And what did you think this individual was doing?
But shouldn't Ashli Babbit have complied when they said get back? I mean, none of this would have happened if she complied, right? I mean, come on now. Following the law. She should have obeyed the law. Isn't that what you tell, blacks? Isn't that what you tell us? Obey the law. Why didn't she obey the law? Now all of you are screaming and crying and howling for this man's blood. All he did was do his job, right? He's a cop. It's always amazing how the racists on the right show their true colors when it's one of their own that's doing something crazy and stupid. Have no business doing it. She's not innocent. Ashli Babbit is not innocent. Participated in a riot, breaking the law, involved with people destroying property that's not theirs. You joined a mob, broke the law. See, this is how you see the hypocrisy in the Republican Party. This is how you see it. Now saying racist things to a Capitol Police officer who did his job. The whole thing was just like your favorite president didn't get reelected. So that justifies running amok, destroying public property, invading the Capitol, harming people, harming cops, and that's perfectly okay. Nobody ever thought about this, how this would go. These morons who decide to raid the Capitol, these rioters, never thought how it would go. And then want to try and make her a hero. You guys are sickening. Absolutely sickening. And then want to crucify a man who was doing his job. Pathetic, really. You say the thing to Ahmaud Arbery. Should have complied. Say the same thing about Willie McCoy. Should have complied. Willie McCoy was sleeping in his car. And they showed flashing a light in his face to blind him. And the cop was already saying, I'm just going to light him up. You all like, should have followed the law, should have followed the law. Now when the shoe's on the other foot, now you want to cry. Howl for blood. It's amazing the situations, show the true colors of the racists on the right.
Well, she was posing a threat to United States House of Representatives.
But an attorney for Ashli Babbitt's family disputes that. He did not respond to our request for a comment, but in a previous statement said Babbitt was not brandishing a weapon, not in close proximity to members of Congress, and was not an imminent threat of death or serious injury to anyone. Her family points out that she was not armed.
Doesn't matter if she wasn't armed or not. You were with rioters storming the Capitol. You were told to get back, and you didn't listen. What do you think was going to happen when a cop says, get back? You with a group of rioters, lawbreakers. You choose not to listen. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? You're going to get shot.
That's correct.
The fact that you weren't aware whether she was armed or not, did that alter the decision making?
It did not.
What should we make of the fact that there were other officers in other potentially life-threatening situations who didn't use their service weapons that day?
I'm sure it was a terrifying situation. I can only control my reaction, my training, my level of expertise. That would be upon them to speak for themselves.
Former President Trump has talked about you and this incident. He says she was murdered.
As we can see, Trump is a clown. Trump don't care. Trump don't see a lawbreaker. Trump is a clown. He only cares about stirring up the base and having his little minions, the ones who have no sense, to do his bidding. Well, you can see more Trump is a scumbag, just like Joe Biden, to say that she was murdered. And he won't tell the truth, but he's on the political side, and politicians got to say whatever they can to keep their fan base happy.
What does it feel like to hear that from a former president?
Well, it's disheartening. If he was in the room or anywhere and I'm responsible for him, I was prepared to do the same thing for him and his family.
Would you have his back today if you were so assigned?
I sure would, because it's my job.
As I said, your name has been on the internet for some time in an unofficial.
That is a man of courage. That is a man of courage. Still will defend somebody. Okay? That is a complete scumbag who basically slammed you and said that you killed her when she broke the law. I commend this man. I really do. I commend him to actually want to stick up for a man who would throw you under the bus, calls himself the president, but he's really a puppet. And you can see right here that Trump is actually bringing out the best out of this man. Trump slams him. This dude says, you know what? I'll still protect you anyway, because that's my job. Kudos to you, man. Kudos to you, Mr. Byrd.
A lot of rumors, a lot of accusations, one of which is that you had some sort of political motive. You were a political operative.
I do my job for Republican, for Democrat, for white, for black, red, blue, green.
A few years ago, you were investigated for leaving your service weapon in a bathroom. And that's been brought up by those who were questioning your competency.
Yeah.
You want to respond to that?
Sure. It was a terrible mistake. I acknowledged it. I owned up to it. I accepted the responsibility. I was penalized for it. And I moved on.
Multiple investigations.
See that? A man of integrity. How about Trump? Did he have any integrity? Oh, when it came to the COVID, yeah. He said it didn't exist at first. Then when finally information came out that, it's real and it's here, then he just said, all right, you know what? It's here. COVID's real. We got to take care of it. Yet the right will never try to hold Trump's feet to the fire. But you hold this man feet to the fire for doing his job. Hold his feet, not hold his feet to the fire, have a lynch mob after him. This man admits his wrongs, moves on. Trump couldn't do that. Hey, he couldn't even admit, that he was wrong for the way he railroaded the Central Park 5. He couldn't even admit he was wrong about that.
Have now upheld Byrd's actions on January 6th. Capitol Police, in their press release after exonerating you, said your actions potentially saved members and staff from serious injury and possible death. What was it like to hear those words, to see those words?
Those words meant a lot because that's exactly what I did on that day. That was my mission. That was what I prepared for. And it's rewarding and refreshing to hear that.
Lieutenant Byrd says he still loves his job and looks forward to returning to it.
That was a man with integrity. That was a man who basically, did his job, protected lives, kept people from getting hurt to the best of his ability. To the best of his ability. And the former president, slammed him for it. That's sad. It's real sad, man. It's messed up. All he did was his job. The hypocrisy of the Republican Party was exposed. So there was a good thing that came out of it, because you're talking about Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain, and Elijah McClain and Ahmaud Arbery were innocent. And this person's guilty. The Republican Party said, you know what? She broke the law. She paid the consequences. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's basically what it is. But they couldn't do that for Ashli Babbit because it was so entrenched in the MAGA Kool-Aid. They couldn't do that. And now it stings. It stings so much that they have to sit there and eat humble pie. They did this to themselves. They really did. Okay? All that chanting. I remember when it came to George Floyd, how they would have pictures online of people just putting their knee, practicing Derek Chauvin's position, putting their knee on George Floyd's neck. And they thought that was cool. Mocking Ahmaud Arbery. Thought that was cool. Now when it comes out like this about Ashli Babbit, how she was in the wrong, they can't even admit that she was wrong. Then you see the hypocrisy. Then you see the racial rants. Then you see their true colors, their true hatred for blacks, even when a black person's in the right. Just so sad. You know, really is. Pathetic. Okay. And now they have to live with that. Can't open their mouths up because of all the crap they were talking about. Obey the law. You should have complied. Well, Ashli Babbit didn't comply. And you all want to defend her. See, the left has selective, who they want to defend. And it's the color of your skin. It's basically what it is. Thursday, Lieutenant Byrd disclosed to the NBC News Lester Holt that he was the Capitol Hill police officer who fatally shot Ashli Babbit on January 6, who is black, immediately became the target of racism, death threats from the right-wing extremists who thrive in a fact-free social media echo chambers. Those racist rants expose not only the violent mindset that has been growing over the past few years, but also the hateful hypocrisy. And that's who they are. The messaging platform Telegram is popular with those seeking to avoid the public scrutiny of more widely used public apps because of its privacy and end-to-end encryption features. Users called Byrd racial slurs and described them as a dead man walking. One poster asks, "Why isn't he hanged yet?" Lynching references were rampant. "He should swing for treason," read another comment. He wasn't. Wow. Far from anomalies, there are mere samplings of the hatred sparked by one single chat link. It has a thread in which spelling and grammar doesn't matter, but hate seemed a prerequisite. Even on a more mainstream platform like Twitter, the reaction was bigoted. Syndicated columnist and author Ann Coulter posted an article about Byrd's NBC interview and remarked, "I guess now we know why the government, Trump and Biden, wouldn't tell us who shot Ashli Babbit." Matt Walsh, a popular podcaster who describes himself as a theocratic fascist, in his Twitter profile wrote, "Make this a white cop shooting a BLM rider, and the whole country would be on fire right now." Oh, boy. The racist vitriol hurled at Byrd online echoed the slurs that were hurled at his police colleagues on January 6, testifying before Congress that at the end of last month, Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn said members of the mob taunted him with racial slurs on multiple occasions. Other officers reported being attacked by rioters holding Blue Lives Matter flags. The hypocrisy here becomes even more vivid when the reaction to Byrd's use of force is contrasted with the far-right shameful defense of white former police officer Derek Chauvin, convicted in April of killing George Floyd. Fox News hosts, including Tucker Carlson, portrayed Chauvin as not Floyd, as the real victim. Yeah, Carlson is a scumbag. Carlson had no such sympathy for Byrd, maintaining that he had executed Babbitt. Nope. The whole thing was like the fact that she's white, she's right. On the government-run Russian TV show called 60 Minutes, no relation to the U.S. program, host Olga Sigabib claimed that the policeman got away with it because he is black. Blacks are permitted to kill white people. Really? This, of course, is insulting as it's untrue. Byrd was cleared of any wrongdoing in two separate investigations. The Justice Department and the Washington Metropolitan Police Department investigated Byrd's actions for any violation of federal law, including violating Byrd's civil rights. They found no such violations, and Byrd's Capitol Police Department determined that his actions were within deadly force policy. That police states that an officer may use deadly force only when the officer reasonably believes that action is in defense of human life, including the officer's own life, or in the defense of any person in immediate danger of serious physical injury. Byrd described a harrowing ordeal in his NBC News interview. "We were essentially trapped where we were. There was no way to retreat, no way to get out," Byrd said. He was barricaded with 60 to 80 House members and staffers, people who he was responsible for protecting. Okay, so he did what he had to do. He had 80 people behind him to protect. As he stood guard, he was also trying to quickly process the broadcast streaming over his police radio. As described by NBC News, there were shouts of officers down, screams from his colleagues under attack by rioters and chemical agents. A report that officers' fingertips were blown off. 28-year veteran of the Capitol Police took out his gun as a mob started to break through the glass and wooden doors standing between them and the lawmakers and staffers. Rioters ignored his and his colleagues' commands that they stand back. Much of America has watched what happened next. Byrd fired once, striking Babbitt in the shoulder as she tried to climb through the smashed glass. Remember that. Importantly, Byrd noted in his interview that he had escorted former President Donald Trump through Capitol on numerous occasions. If he was in the Capitol and I was responsible for him, I do the same thing for him and his family, Byrd said. I do my job for the Republican, for Democrat, for black, or for white, for red, or for blue, or green. I don't care about your affiliation. While Byrd said political affiliation or skin color didn't affect how he carries his duties, the same isn't true for many in the mob now trying to vilify him for doing his job. Yeah. If Trump's life had been in danger, and this is the person they fight for Trump, and this black cop said he would defend Trump. If he had to protect Trump, he would fight for Trump. So this is where these MAGA morons are just losing it right now. It's all about race with them. They're racist. If Trump's life had been in danger, you can bet the far right would have been screaming for officers like Byrd to neutralize the threat. But when one of their own, a martyr for a conspiracy-driven cause, is the threat, someone else has to pay. All the better if that someone is black, and facts be damned. The hypocrisy is hidden or surprising. You have to know where to look. And that's basically it. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm so disgusted with these peons.